So the Team Go Rocket Takeover event is starting around the world. Today, as always, we're going to run through all the event details and the tips and tricks you need to know for this Team Rocket event, and there's some juicy info. Let's get right into it. The first thing, I'm just kind of whispering here because I don't want to wake up the whole family. It is literally 6 a.m. when I'm making this video. But this event is going to be February 1st, 12 a.m. to February 5th, 11:59 p.m. Bonus to the event will be more Team Rocket members at Pokestops and in balloons, and you can also use a charge attack to remove frustration on any of your Shadow Pokemon. We will have 5 new Shadow Pokemon, including Shadow Alolan Vulpix, Shadow Spoink, Shadow Blitzel, Shadow Joltik, all available from grunts from Pokestops, as well as Shadow Registeel making his debut as a Giovanni encounter. Not only that, but all the Team Rocket grunts are going to get new Shadow Pokemon, so we may see the return of some Shadow Pokemon we have not seen in a while through the grunts. Leaders, everybody's going to be asking, what do the Team Go Rocket leaders have now? Well, Arlo is going to return with Shadow Nidoman male as its encounter, and of course it can be shiny. Cliff is then going to get the new shiny Shadow Magnemite, which of course can be shiny Shadow Magnemite. Finally, Sierra is going to return with a fan favorite, Shadow Beldum, which of course could be shiny Shadow Beldum. Never really hurts to have Beldum. I was hoping for something new like Shadow Gibble, but I'll take Beldum. Beldum from Sierra never hurts. You'll be able to collect 12-kilometer eggs from defeating the Team Go Rocket leaders, which you can check out the egg pool on screen. I don't think it's really much changed from before, but of course we do still have that shiny Poniard in there if you're still going after it. Now, researching that, of course we're going to have some special research. First of all, we are going to have the task feed 2 Team Go Rocket grunts for a mysterious component. We'll also have some exclusive special research during the event, which will be the new Giovanni special research called Shadowy Skirmishes. You will only get this special research if you have completed all of the past Giovanni special researches. So if you still have the last Giovanni research, which I honestly forget what it was called, you will not get this new one, but you can get like this new one by just logging in until March 1st, as long as you've completed the past ones. All the tasks will be on screen. They're generally pretty simple. It's just stuff like defeat leaders, grunts, purify shadows, etc., and that will lead you to the Black Arcade Radar on page 3, which then requires you to defeat Giovanni to fully complete the research. So yes, you do have to battle Giovanni to complete the research, but we're going to go through on how to stack radars, and if you don't want to catch Shadow Registeel, how to do that in a bit. With the event details out of the way, let's get right into the tips, starting with what are going to be the best Pokemon to remove frustration from during this event. Now, although there's a long list of amazing Shadow Pokemon in Pokemon Go, specifically today I want to talk about the Shadow Pokemon that have been available from grunts and leaders for the past 3 months that are going to be worth it removing frustration from because they have some meta relevant use. Let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to have Shadow Onix, which evolves into Shadow Steelix. Shadow Steelix is a Pokemon that sees play in the Great League and the Ultra League, so definitely worth removing frustration from if you have a good IV one. We then have Shadow Totodile, which falls into Shadow Feraligatr. Shadow Feraligatr is a good water type raid attacker. We have Shadow Makuhita evolving into Shadow Hariyama, not a bad fighting type raid attacker, not as good as Terrakion or Machamp, but still good. We have Shadow Stunky, which evolves into Shadow Skunktank, not a bad Great League and Ultra League Pokemon, especially with that high poison damage fast. We have Shadow Ralts. Shadow Ralts evolves, of course, into Shadow Gardevoir. Shadow Gardevoir is going to be a great fairy type raid attacker. And there's even Shadow Gallade, which is not a bad Ultra League Pokemon, or we even see it have some play in like some things like the Willpower Cup, I think it was. We have Shadow Chikorita evolving into Shadow Meganium. Again, not a bad Pokemon for the Great League or the Ultra League. We have Shadow Starly evolving into Shadow Staraptor, which is going to be a good flying type raid attacker, and I've seen it have some play in the Great League and the Ultra League. It's not the best Pokemon, but you can have some success. We have Shadow Ducklet in there. Shadow Ducklet is not going to be bad for the Little Cup. We have Shadow Snubble in there evolving into Shadow Granbull. Shadow Granbull is not a terrible charmer for the Great League or the Ultra League. Shadow Granbull is also not a bad fairy type raid attacker. We have Shadow Shinx in there. Shadow Shinx evolved into Shadow Luxray. Shadow Luxray is going to be a good electric type raid attacker, as well as some play in the Great League. We also have Shadow Electabuzz evolving into Shadow Electivire, going to be one of the best electric type raid attackers in the game. Definitely worth removing frustration from that one. We have Shadow Alolan Sandshrew evolving into Shadow Alolan Sandslash, not a bad Kanto Cup Pokemon if we ever get the return of that cup. And the big one, Shadow Swinub evolving into Shadow Mamoswine, the best ground type raid attacker in the game and one of the best ice type raid attackers in the game, or might be the best. We have Shadow Zubat evolving into Shadow Golbat, the middle stage, going to be a good Pokemon for some limited Great League metas. Shadow Weedle evolving into Shadow Beedrill, again, not bad for some limited Great League metas. And also Shadow Skorupi evolving into Shadow Drapion, one of the best Great League and Ultra League safe swaps there is in the game right now. We also have Shadow Snorlax. Shadow Snorlax is going to be good in the Master League and even some play in the Ultra League. We have Shadow Dratini, of course, evolving into Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite is going to be an amazing Great League, Ultra League, and Master League Pokemon, as well as the second best Dragon type raid attacker in the game. We also have Shadow Machop, which of course evolves into Shadow Machamp. Shadow Machamp is going to be good in the Great League and in the Ultra League, as well as one of the best fighting type raid attackers in the game. There's also Shadow Mawile in there, which Shadow Mawile is not bad for some limited Great League metas. There's also Shadow Mewtwo, if you forgot to remove frustration from that. Shadow Mewtwo, the best psychic type raid attacker in the game and a very good Master League Pokemon. And finally, Shadow Magikarp evolving into Shadow Gyarados, not a bad Ultra League, Master League, and water type raid attacker. bar. By the way, if you want to find out what Pokemon you have that know frustration, you can just search at frustration in the search bar. All these Pokemon that pop up are Pokemon that you could potentially use a charge TM on to remove frustration. If you want to learn more about what shadows are really worth removing frustration, I do have a full video breaking down the best shadows in Pokemon Go. So if there's any shadows that I didn't mention in this video that you think might be good, check out that video. That could answer your question. Now, of course, we have new shadow Pokemon making their debut. And are any of those ones going to be good? Now, the main ones out of the grunts that are really going to be the ones you want to look at is, first of all, Shadow Alolan Vulpix. We all know Alolan Ninetales was a great Pokemon for the Great League and Ultra League, but it got nerfed when Charm got nerfed. However, now with that Shadow form, you're going to see a huge jump back with that Shadow Alolan Ninetales in the Ultra League and the Great League. It's going to be a great Pokemon you're going to have on your roster. It's better than the regular version, so definitely get it. The next one you want to look at is going to be Shadow Galvantula. Galvantula is already a pretty squishy Pokemon, but it does massive damage, so adding that Shadow boost will help it in the Great League and the Ultra League. And this Pokemon will definitely have some play in those leagues. It'll even do even better in some limited metas when most of the meta is banned and Shadow Galvantula can really go off. Shadow Spork and Shadow Blissel will really be the two that you really want to avoid. In terms of the team leaders, we're going to have Shadow Nidoran male, in which Shadow Nidoking is not a terrible poison type raid attacker, but probably not worth grinding. We'll have Shadow Magnemite. Shadow Magnemite into Shadow Magnezone. Shadow Magnezone is going to be a good Ultra League and Master League Pokemon, as well as one of the best electric type raid attackers in the game. So getting a high IV Shadow Magnemite from Cliff's team, or even a high IV Shiny Shadow, would be crazy. Finally, that leads us on to Sierra's team with the Shadow Beldum. We all know Shadow Metagross, the #1 steel type raid attacker in the game, and I don't think it's ever going to get taken over. So this will probably be the one you really want to focus on. And of course, that shiny Shadow Metagross is to die for. That brings us on to Shadow Registeel, and is it any good? Let's check it out right now. Contrary to what you might have heard, Shadow Registeel is actually not a Shadow really worth using your Black Rocket Radar on. Although regular Registeel is one of the best Pokemon for the Great League and the Ultra League, the Shadow really isn't. Comparing the matchups on screen of regular Registeel versus Shadow Registeel, by the way, any blue circle means Registeel loses that matchup, meanwhile X's Registeel wins that matchup. You'll notice that Shadow Registeel now loses harder to Stunfisk, harder to Medicham, it now loses to Scrafty, it now loses to Lantern, it loses harder to Diggersby, but it beats Toxapex easier. That is a lot of downfalls for a Shadow version versus the non-Shadow. The reason this is also true is because Shadows really take advantage of Pokemon with high damaging fast moves. Registeel has Lock On, which literally does 1 damage. So I don't recommend catching a Shadow Registeel. Save your Black Rocket Radar. And by the way, if you don't have a regular Registeel, it will be in raids at that time, so it's not going to be hard to get the regular version versus the Shadow. So yeah, Shadow Registeel really not going to be a Pokemon you're going to want on your roster, just because that regular form is just so much better. So what does this mean? You do not want to use your Black Rocket Radar. How do you stack them? Well, if you don't know, last time Shadow Mewtwo was out, we tested a theory in which if you do not go past page 1 of a Giovanni Special Research, you will be able to collect more Giovanni Special Researches. Remember I said earlier that if you have a past Giovanni Special Research, you do not get the new one. And of course, to complete a Giovanni Special Research, you have to actually use your radar. This is why I recommend, if you do not want to catch Shadow Registeel, do not go past page 1 of the Shadowy Squirmishes. You can complete the first page of tasks, but do not claim anything. Just close that Special Research, leave it to the side, and then the next time we get a Shadow Legendary, which my guess will probably be Regirock and then Regice and blah, 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 you will still get that new research, and you could not go past page 1 of that research, and you can keep doing this and stacking these researches until there is a Shadow Legendary that you actually care about. Then you just go ahead and complete all the researches, collect all those Black Rocket Radars, use them all on the Legendary you want. So again, if you do not want to catch a Shadow Registeel, do not go past step 1, page 1 of the Shadow Squirmishes Special Research task. But if you want to catch one just because you want a Shadow Registeel or whatever, you can go ahead and just complete it. That brings us to the final section of this video, which is going to be Platinum Medal tips. You need 35 of them to go from level 48 to 49. Which one should you be looking after during this event? First of all, of course, the Hero Medal defeat 2,000 Team Go Rocket members. They're going to be everywhere during this event. This is the time to chunk out this medal. I've only barely completed it, so definitely go ahead and get after it. We also have the Purifier Medal, Purify 1,000 Shadow Pokemon. This is something I actually need to work on, but I'm just kind of low on dust right now. Obviously, you're catching a lot of Shadows, so purify them if you're just going to transfer them. But specifically, you can hunt the 1,000 Stardust Purify Pokemon. These Pokemon cost 1,000 stars to purify, and those include Weedle, Rattata, Zubat, Geodude, Magikarp, Poochyena, Whismur, Aeron, Starly, Bidoof, and Purloin. And of course, all of their evolutions. Those are just going to be 1,000 stars to purify. So if you catch those Pokemon, purify them before you transfer them. Final medal is going to be the Ultra Hero Medal, defeat the Team Go Rocket boss 50 times. If you do plan on battling Giovanni, you know, you're going to be putting a point towards this medal, although I don't really recommend. Again, getting Shadow Registeel, I still want to mention this medal. And that's pretty much it, guys. I do want to say that I'm going to have counter guides for all the 3 leaders, as well as Giovanni, how to take them down, short videos dropping all tomorrow, as well as we are going to be shiny shadow hunting these new shiny shadows, probably mostly Beldum. You're going to come tune in on that tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, like I mentioned, I'm going to have a video about the new Team Go Rocket lineups dropping on the 2nd, February 2nd. So if you want to know what potential new shadow Pokemon you can get, obviously you can go out and hunt them yourself and figure figure it out yourself, but I will have a full video breaking down what is returning through the grunts and what has left through the grunts. That's it from the video, guys. Hopefully you guys are excited for the Team Go Rocket event in Pokemon Go, because these things are always a blast. We'll see you in the next one. Follow for more tips. Peace.